Hey there. Why so glum?
Well,
Let me guess, you want to go to the Renaissance Fair, but you only have 2 days to prepare and you're making a costume for yourself and a friend, and you have a surplus of curtains and bed sheets you've been hoarding for years that you don't know what to do with.
yeah.
Well, you've come to the right place. I can teach you how to sew 2 outfits in a
But
mat.
what if I'm afraid of needles?
You could use a hot glue gun.
But what if I'm allergic to heat?
Fine. No, don't cry. Sorry, I have a solution for you two. You should check out ThredUp, my favorite and the only online consignment store I use. You'll love it. In fact, the outfit you're wearing right now is from ThredUp. This Windsor top was originally $38, but I got it for $18.99. These Zara jeans were originally $45.90, but I got them for $26. And these Franco Sarto boots were originally $127, but I paid $54.
But how did you get it on me without me
Who
remembering?
cares about that? Let's look at some Renaissance-inspired outfits. This unbranded lace-up top had an original estimated retail price of $25, but I got it for $12.99. And it's being worn over this Ann Taylor Loft peasant leg top. Originally $64, but I got it for just $19.99. It also looks great with this top from the brand Don't Ask Why. Originally $25.99, ThredUp price just $10. And why is the brand called that? Well, I don't ask why. And probably my favorite piece of all, this unbranded embroidered vest. Originally $51, but I paid half that. I also really love this LSI skirt. Originally $24, but only $14 on ThredUp.
Okay, but are these looks really historically accurate?
Have you ever even been to a Renaissance fair? Well, most people's goal isn't really to look accurate so much as to look like a drunk fairy that smells bad. A sort of dirtbag look, if you will.
I'm just a dark age dirtbag baby.
That's the spirit. So,
How do you use ThredUp?
well, do you have a phone?
No.
Check your pits. Well, I usually start by swiping my preference over to women, and we're talking about ThredUp, not Tinder. Then I filter it by brand, usually selecting Zara. After that, I browse my options and click the heart on whatever I can't live without. That's how I found this Zara dress. Original price $48, but I paid $24. And then my favorite ThredUp outfit so far, I paid $24 for these Shein pants that were originally $48. I paid $9 for this imagination mesh top that I wear under basically everything lately. It was originally $20. And then this string cheese like poly top was originally $48, but I only paid $15.99. And if you want to be a clone of me, well, ThredUp has a new feature where you can follow the link in my description and find dupes of the stuff I wear in this video. So check out ThredUp and make sure to use my code McKara for an extra 30% off your first order. Thanks for sponsoring this video, ThredUp.
But what if I'm not afraid of needles or allergic to heat and I do want to make my own outfit?
Fine, we'll sew some Renaissance costumes.
Okay, it's time to get to work, but I just remembered it's the 21st night of September, so. Now that grueling first step is over, let's make a chemise. Hello. Hi. You look like a golf assistant. That's what I said.
After the golf course employee imposter goes upstairs, grab some cheap white fabric and cut out 2 layers that are as long as your body and as wide as 2 skateboards. Fold that in half, then cut out a little neckline and some armholes. At this point, it should perfectly fit the robot from Squid Game. Make sure you hang on to the chunk you cut out of the neckline because that's going to make your cap later. Sew up the sides of your killer robot dress as well as the top of the straps, and fold your entire gigantic neckline down about an inch, iron it in place, and sew a channel. Now cut out some gigantic floopy sleeves. Fun fact, the reason Renaissance dresses have such voluminous sleeves is because Renaissance fair food is super expensive and you're not allowed to bring your own food in. And as you know, Renaissance fairs were a really big part of the Renaissance era, hence the reason we call it the Renaissance era. So our ancestors would stuff their sleeves with sandwiches, smuggling them into the fair. You know, I realized recently, I don't like giving sewing instructions. Then I thought, I have to give sewing instructions. This is my job. But then I looked at my budget and realized I have enough money to survive like a year. So why don't I just take a year to not do my job well and to use my voiceovers to instead focus on my passion, which is lying about history. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a mix of both. Anyway, that little garment only took a couple hours to make. Then I went to bed with the intention of making an entire peasant costume the next day.
Good morning.
Not gonna lie, I felt rough, and even my trip to Starbucks didn't fix it.
So I woke up feeling a little bit unmotivated and essentially I was in no mood to make a whole dress today. But that all changed when I received a very encouraging and sweet Snapchat from my nephew.
Hi, Makira. We don't want to kill you anymore.
Like, if you take out the word anymore, that's like a totally sweet message. You know what they say, with a little bit of encouragement and the right outfit, you can take on almost anything. I feel like this is just not totally the vibe, so put on something a little less Paris Hilton, a little more somewhere in time. Anyway, let's make I'm running out of time today. I don't feel like I'll have time to make a dress today.
But I decided to try anyway, so my nephew's encouragement wouldn't be in vain. Cut a king-size bedsheet in half long ways. Throw one side to the side and focus on the other. This is your front piece, and you're gonna cut a little of the top middle away like so. This will make the front of your skirt a little shorter than the back, hopefully preventing you from tripping and falling headfirst into a kilted stormtrooper. Like a stormtrooper in a kilt. You're bound to run into one at it. Renaissance fairs are weird. And the culture is really hard to explain if you've never been to one. After joining the skirt panels together, thou must hemmeth the bottom of the skirt. 'Twill be easiest if you do it now.
People often ask, Makara, why do you have a little Quaker parrot bird? And I tell them, my job involves a lot of unpinning.
And now you know why God made birds. Here I am making a carrying case for my pet tapeworm. Just kidding, it's a waistband. That's what it was. I gather stitched the top of my skirt, then tugged on it till it fit perfectly within that waistband.
Okay, now that the skirt is done, I'm getting a little cold, so please don't hold it against me if I put my sweatsuit back on.
To make this top, lay on some fabric, then cut it to fit your friend. Yes, you'll want to make a peasant costume for your friend before you make an upper class dress for yourself. That way you'll have a maid all day at the Renaissance Fest. Life hacks. Oh, sew and iron everything the way that it goes. Sew the front and back pieces together like so. And while we're on the topic of the word pieces, it's Reese's Pieces, not Reese's Pieces. The word pieces sounds like you're combining the words pee and feces, and it's not funny. I won't put up with it anymore. Reese's Pieces, Reese's Pieces.
It's currently like 1 a.m. Didn't work on anything for the whole middle portion of the day because after making the skirt, Gary and I went to church. The kids there really like him. Then afterwards, I went to my mom's to watch Married at First Sight with her. Then on the way home from that, I got pulled over by a cop. Why? I honestly think because he was bored. I got this gut feeling that nothing interesting was going to happen, so I didn't record it like I usually do with cop stops. And boy, was I right. Nothing interesting happened. Like he asked for my license and then he went back to his car and he was back there long enough for me to read several Snapchat articles about a useless topic. I got pulled over so much. I was playing Never Have I Ever with a group of girls, and one of the girls said she
have never been pulled over.
And Courtney,
That makes me put a finger down.
how? I have been pulled over probably 12 times. I rarely commit crimes. I did illegally stream the show Viking years ago. But like on the road, they just pull me over and then uselessness ensues. I don't understand why. Well, by the time this cop came back, his excuse that he gave was my license plate holder
Was too thick.
like,
Buddy.
it's 2022. There's no such thing as
Too thick.
Anyway, he said he was looking for drunk drivers and had I been drinking, and I was like, no, just watching reality TV with my mom, like you should be doing right now. Here's the best part. He followed me for so long, waiting, trying to think of something to pull me over for. And then when he finally flickers his little it's right in front of my house. I'll probably edit all of what I just said out.
When cutting your zip ties, oh yeah, we're adding zip ties as boning. Don't know if you caught that. Make sure you leave enough room for the top of your bodice to be folded under and whip stitched.
Well, my last machine needle has broken, so therefore I say we call it night. But today I think I clocked a total of maybe 4.5 hours. This is what I have done, giving me pirate, which is completely fine with me.
With no working needles, I had no choice but to sit and relax and watch my favorite movie, The Oil Lamp, and force my roomie's dog to watch it with me. I spent the next couple days at a women's retreat. Most of the women from my church stayed in a dorm, but I brought my RV because I signed up too late and there wasn't room for me in the dorms. That was okay, because then I was able to get some work done, and I was able to relax in our free time between, our teamwork drills and our 3D worship sessions. That first night was kind of creepy though, because I was sitting in my RV and this SUV kept driving by very slowly. So then finally I was like, hey, do you guys want to come in and hang out? And they did, and it was a good night. I was able to stitch down the top of my bodice without feeling so lonely. And I know, you're like, I figured it out. Those are probably just two ladies from your church. Nope, they're not. The next day, I went home and added grommets to the front of the bodice.
Grommet montage.
I also added like 8 grommets to the back of the skirt because I wasn't exactly sure what Courtney's waist measurements were. This way, it's pretty adjustable. Now, if you're sensing that there's a story behind my slightly flawed pedicure, you'd be correct. You see, for that bachelorette party I told you about, we went to a day spa. I really took a shine to the middle-aged beautician who was assigned to me, but she wasn't so concerned with giving me a pedicure so much as explaining what's going to happen to me when a nuclear bomb comes. I toyed with the idea of adding sleeves, but due to a warm forecast, coupled with my desire not to, I didn't. Though I did have to take the hem up a touch so Courtney wouldn't trip over it and smash her beautiful nose. If she did, though, it would be really fitting because apparently her name means short nose. Next, I tried to make straps, but
I've gone through 8 sewing machine needles
In 2 days.
which tells me it's not the needles, it's not the fabric, it's probably the machine. I was thinking I would probably have to go out and buy a new sewing machine, and then I remembered I already did that at some point, I guess, because this was in my closet. So I'm about to retire this sewing machine, and it's honestly a little bit
Emotional.
This has been with me since I started YouTube. I got this for my birthday when I was 15, and it has literally changed my whole life. My entire life I have now, I owe to this machine.
So yeah, I did end up making those straps. I put a grommet on each end, as well as a couple grommets on the front and back of my bodice. That way the straps could just tie on. And then we were done. Wait, no, this dress is missing something. No cap. So to make the cap, grab that piece you cut out of your neckline. Make sure it's a Barbie doll length tall and 3 bananas wide. 2 layers like that. Sew them together along the edges, leaving a little hole open, then flip it right side out through that hole, iron it down, and banish the little hole from existence. Make a few little gathers on the curved side and try it on. If it still doesn't look good, try suing me. I dare you. Now we have to make a little back for our cap, because back before the Elizabethan era, humans couldn't grow hair in the back of their heads. They always had to wear head coverings to keep their head warm. Don't believe me? Try to find a photograph from before the year 1600 that shows someone with hair on the back of their head. I'll literally Venmo you $20 if you can. The only other thing I did on this outfit was throw a few stitches of embroidery floss around every single grommet on that whole dang bodice. It may have been time consuming, but that slight bit of accuracy it added was totally worth it.
No.
I went to bed with the intention of making this whole dress the next day.
It's morning time. Actually, it's like 4 p.m. I spent the first half of the day putting glitter on my face.
Oh, and staring at this mark on my pinky because I went to bed with a rubber band on my braces and I woke up with it on my pinky. And I have no memory of why.
Now, if we're gonna make this whole costume in a day, we can't, but we have to.
Spoiler alert, it took like 18 hours split up over the course of 2 days.
Friendly reminder, if you're hoping for this to be extremely historically accurate, well...
What's that? You want to see pictures of my grandkids? Oh, my reference photos? Oh, here. Now you're going to want to violently and passionately bang your scissors against your lining fabric, leaving you with 2 layers that look like this and 2 layers that look like this. Then you're going to cut out a 3rd layer of each out of a fancy fabric. For mine, I'm using some thrifted curtains. But just for the record, when I do have grandkids, I'm going to dress them like this. By now, I'm sure you've guessed exactly which era we're going for. That's right, Dad. The Tudor era. After adding boning channels in between the 2 layers of your lining fabric, aka the part that won't be seen, slap the layer of fancy fabric on top of that. Okay, here you see me laughing at Garion because my new sewing machine makes a sound that he likes to try to imitate, and here you see me feeling 40% more superior than usual. My classic Tudor A-line skirt was comprised of 3 curtain panels. After sewing them together, I cut the middle one in half, thus giving us 2 big panels. Pleat them in a most regal manner till they fit inside a waistband that you cut to fit your waist perfectly. Throw a sheet on a bird, then throw on some comfy clothes in which you will whip down the top of your bodice while watching a show with a sweatpants-clad lad. Perforate the back middle edges. Then, when adding grommets, use someone else's hands while tending to the blood blisters you gave yourself from hammering your own thumb so many times. Fun fact, a long time ago, I was going to use this green velvet to cover the couch in my RV, but I felt like it was too special for that. So then I was going to use it to make a coat, but I felt like it was too special for that. Then finally, I decided I was going to glue it to the wall in my RV bathroom, like make it wallpaper, but then I couldn't find it for like 2 years, so I used a different wallpaper in the little RV bathroom, and alas, I just found it this week. How can you hear a story like that and still not believe in God?
Now, if you're attempting to travel back in time 12 years and get a job designing costumes for the early 2000s Tudors, you can just like stop here. But if you want it to look a little more actually Tudor, take a strip of fabric, pin it here.
Then after that, you're going to sew it here. Now carefully yank out the bed sheet from beneath your roommate's sleeping body. You're going to use it to make a sleeve mock-up. Or if you're like me, I 8.5 mock-ups. And even then, I didn't get it right. Not that night anyway. I tapped out after about 9 hours of work that day. Then the next day, it came to my attention that my dad still hadn't seen the last video I put out. Suffice to say, from the 11-minute, 20-second mark on, he really enjoyed it.
Can you confirm that you're supposed to be not paid after?
Thanks, Dad. I needed that.
It's the final day of the project. First, we're going to finish the sleeves, and then it's time for the fun part. No, not paintballing the elderly. Accessories and decorating. What do you think about that?
Let's start back in on those sleeves.
So, I usually use one of those wrist pin cushions, but today I didn't put it on. However, muscle memory did not get the memo. Here, want to do the honors?
I should have taken that as a sign, because the day was all downhill from there. Remember this? The oversleeve was supposed to be cream, and the bunchy thing was supposed to be the green velvet. Well, I made a mock-up bunchy thing, then tried tracing it onto the green velvet, and there wasn't enough to make 2 of them, so either I had to hack one of my arms off, or start over on the sleeves and reverse which fabric went where. And my health insurance deductible is really high, so amputation is off the table. Unfortunately, that means we're starting over. When cutting this shape, I recommend you curve the top part. Who am I kidding? You're not making this.
Now, sometimes a heavy velvet fabric like this doesn't want to hold the ironedness. So my trick for that is to place a heavy book on it right after you iron it and leave the book there till it cools down. This is a big historical fashion book. This is a Bible. And I know you're probably thinking it's sacrilegious to use the Bible like that. Don't worry, it's just the message version. Probably a grand total of 4 people who thought that was funny.
Now, I didn't have enough of the cream curtains left to make the underpuff, but luckily I had a tablecloth that looked very similar.
I'm standing here and I'm singing. It's so fun to sing.
That was Joe testing my new microphone. Oh, and here I am gluing yet another fancy fabric into the inside of my sleeve, just in case they show a little bit.
Is it a sleeve or a shoe for Bigfoot?
Boots with the fur, I'm gonna shoot straight with you guys. Attaching the sleeves to this was a nightmare. Like, I've had more fun waiting in line at the DMV. Well, I've actually had some really good times in line at the DMV.
It's time for the moment we we've all been waiting for.
It's time to decorate.
I had a lot of trims to choose from because not only am I a bit of a hoarder and a sewer, but my grandma was too, so I have 2 lifetimes worth of trim to go through.
Anyone ready to play tennis? I'm not, because it's 2 a.m., but I'm not allowed to go to bed because we're leaving for the Renaissance Fair tomorrow. So guess what we're gonna do with one of these tennis visors?
We're going to make some French hoods, a term originally shortened from French hoodlum, that's a lie, named after Anne Boleyn, who was French, also a lie, and was famously a hoodlum. Did you know she was killed on my birthday? That's surprisingly true. To make a French hood, you need only hot glue and a severe passion to drench a tennis visor in all manner of finery. This is a great way to finally use up some of those fancy, tiny scraps you have. Now we must cover the back with some black fabric, just like the noble women of the time did, in a way to sort of make believe they could grow hair on the back of their heads. With that, we're finally finished. Let's take a look back at our sketch to see how the final product measured up. Aw, oh drats, we forgot the jewelry. I had some time to gather a few little gems the next day before we took off on our trip, and I'm glad I did because it's there that I met Cody.
And how did you find me?
I saw your car and I followed you like a total creep.
He was genuinely not creepy though, and my favorite person I've met in a long time.
Tonight we're heading to the town where the Renaissance Fair is gonna be. I almost forgot my farthingale, and then I was like,
Oh, Courtney don't let me forget my farthingale.
and then she tried to pack a candle. You don't know what a farthingale is, do you?
Kids these days, am I right?
Good night. Do you have any other messages? If you walk in empty,
And a clean your cup.
this girl to sleep. We were in Goodwill and we were checking out, and this girl ran up to me and she said,
Hey, I feel like you would like this.
and it was a pink jacket, and I was like, oh, thanks. And I do like it.
That was underwhelming. After hiding the historically inaccurate fact that you have hair, it's time to whip out your farthingale, don your draperies, and fashion that French hoodlum for the grand reveal. After we had our fill of shenanigans, it was time to get serious and make the short film we came to make. Once upon a time, there was a sweet young forest maiden and a rich, fancy, but very cruel woman. Her cruelty was due to a bad mood, and her bad mood was due to the fact that she lived in the Renaissance era, which smelt very bad. One summer day, their paths crossed. Upon seeing the disgust of the rich woman, the forest woman felt
Dismay.
until one fateful day she ran into a forest elf man.
Joe, what are you doing?
Somewhere to pee.
He informed her of something she could do to earn the approval of everyone.
And could you bunny hop over that bench?
She immediately felt a change within her as elegance ran through her veins. Not long after, she ran into the rich, cruel maiden again, and this time she was met with something different. Respect. I hope you all learned a valuable lesson from that story. I know I did. Now let's see what shenanigans we can get into.
An empty stage.
After that show, which I can't believe you just got to see for free, it's time to see what other diversions would strike our fancy.
Hold on, is this not the cutest freaking curtsy you've ever seen?
We saw all sorts of bizarre people at the Renaissance Fair, like these guys. Okay, but really though, we did see some weird things like Woody the Cowboy. We passed a Star Wars cult meeting, we passed some perplexing costumes, we passed some impressive costumes, and some really, really impressive costumes. That he had that coat over his jeans, boots with the spurs,
Men using children as their little personal workout tools. Disgusting.
I decided to take up a seat on one such ride, deciding that if I could keep at least one child from being used in such a way, it would all be worth it. It wasn't. Then I engaged in some meaningful conversation. The Wheel of Death was almost as fascinating as this couple that watched the whole thing laying down. Hold up, did that guy just spit on them? Takes all sorts to make a world, I guess. Anyway, as impressive as all those attractions were, I was really determined to find some more historically accurate entertainment.
Excuse me, do you know where the public executions be taking place?
Public execution? Really anywhere? Literal physical executions or just assassinations?
Ooh.
I had the privilege of meeting several of my loyal subscribers.
How long do you think it took me to make my dress?
18 hours.
4 days. What's your favorite thing about the Renaissance Festival?
Chicken legs.
Chicken legs.
Oh, now I see why she was a fan of mine.
This is Rebecca.
Okay, doesn't she have like the perfect face for historical drama where both the farmer guy and the rich guy are in love with her? Ugh, I wish I had a historical face. But it's okay, I have a really good 50 pounds of makeup face.
What's the weirdest thing you've seen at the Renaissance Fair?
Some dude just got decked. Like,
One guy got hurt and just kind of laid down.
a giant axe to the back. I saw him walking around later, so he was okay.
Oh, that's good. Is there anything that you want thousands of people to know?
Hi, Mom!
I'd like to share that I was extremely preoccupied during this interview because it was in that moment that I realized I hadn't seen my purse since I accidentally left it with this guy. So sorry I was so distracted, Rebecca.
Hello, Rebecca's mom who's alive. We're gonna have to try to find my purse now.
Making a drawstring purse is essential for hiding modern beverages.
Oh, crap. I wish I could afford this. That's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity right there.
Lastly, we fangirled over meeting the queen. At this moment, I reflected on how thankful I was for Courtney and I's friendship, how it's never really changed, and I hope it never does. What do you say, Courtney? With that, we exited the gates and bid farewell to the Renaissance Fair. Ah, look how happy this guy is.
I climbed up a thing.
From that vantage point, I spotted our giant steel chariot.
Oh, there it is.
And we all drove to a restaurant, and after that, we drove home. Oh, wait.
So what was the weirdest thing you saw at the Renaissance Festival?
There was a beer night.
What do you think the weirdest thing he saw was?
I don't know. Let's ask him. Hop in my time machine. What's the weirdest thing you've seen at the Renaissance Fair?
Oh, man, I see some, like, plague doctors. Those are kind of creepy.
That's what my dad went asked, by the way. So to summarize, the craziest thing I saw was the beer night, and the craziest thing the beer night saw was my dad. So that begs the question, what was the craziest thing my dad saw? While we may never know, I think it's safe to assume that it was this guy who insisted on putting lotion on my hand, but that's not the crazy part. He could speak a secret language.
And do you make this yourself?
Everything is handmade from our own beehive.
Do the bees consent to that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Wow.
They speak bees.
Could you give me a little, He likes my dress.
No, I just said that I just gave you all 50 states in alphabetical order.
That's
Way.
so impressive. Can you do the alphabet backwards now? This guy is so talented.
Back to the beer night, the competitive side of me needed to know which one of us was the better costumer.
Last question. How long did it take you to make this?
3 hours.
Dang.
There you have it, this guy's the winner. Congratulations, your prize is my whole YouTube channel, which eternally hovers close to 2 million subscribers, but never quite reaching it. That's your prize.
As well as this sick discount code to ThreadUp. And remember, that code is Mikara. Now everyone follow the link in my description, check out ThreadUp, or I shall smite ye.